I'm keeping the same order of color as before and started with canary yellow. Now I'm adding cadmium, and then I will add chartreuse, and then robin's egg blue, and then duck blue, then ultramarine, and fuchsia, and last cadmium red. Then catch the flow of ink on a paper towel to stop it. Each time you do that, you'll get a different result. This one almost looks like an imaginary line of trees. Experiment with this a little bit. Change the sequence of color and notice how each one will be different. Pieces of paper towel several times, and then cut them and make them into little squares or rectangles. I've already poured some robin's egg blue on this piece of Yupo, and now I'm adding alcohol. I'm blending it and turning it. And now putting it flat on the table and taking one of those little pieces of paper towel, I am going to stop the flow of ink. Those colors will soften and blend. And I'm not concerned about this because I would add a darker color there. I just added alcohol to this piece that I've done before so that I can demonstrate what to do when those dark ridges form, which you don't want. You may choose to leave them, but this is how you remove them. It's still a little wet. It has to be a little wet. And I can pick those ridges up with my piece of paper towel. And if you want to experiment with this, you can even move the paper towel in another direction and move colors around in that way. In this assignment, we're just putting drops of ink onto a piece of Yupo, just any place you want, and let them expand and dry for just a half a minute or so. Again, just a drop. Or two. And I will let them expand. And here's what I was working on a few minutes ago, and now I will do the same thing. These have dried to an extent, and I'm putting canary yellow on there, and you see that it does change the color completely. And how about chartreuse on that? And that. And then how about I will now add some fuchsia. Again, just a drop. Or two. And I will let them expand. And here's what I was working on a few minutes ago, and now I will do the same thing. These have dried to an extent, and I'm putting canary yellow on there, and you see that it does change the color completely. And how about chartreuse on that? And that. And then how about duck blue on some of those fuchsia colors. Look at the beautiful color that's being formed there. So I could fill this whole piece of work changing the colors. I could actually, if that dried, I could add more color on top of it. And the idea is just so you learn what you could do if you're working on something and you want an effect like this where you've dropped the color and you'll put another color on top of it. And then I could choose to sort of like fill it out a little bit. And completely cover this piece of Yupo. I did that, and this is the result. And look what that looks like when you put a mat around it. A great contemporary piece of art to put someplace where you need a splash of color. I definitely will put this in a very simple black frame. I'm using an inexpensive weld palette. I try to keep the colors in order where I always put the same color in there when I'm using it. Otherwise you'll be mixing colors together. And start to move it with the brush. So if I wanted that to be lighter, I would clean my brush. And I'm just going to add more yellow, especially where the blue is. I'm being careful not to put the yellow on top of the purple because I know that would create something I don't want. And now I'm using fuchsia. Look what I can do. Again, I'm making a contemporary, very colorful piece of art. These are all things, again, that you will play with, experiment with, and find in the end you have something really, really interesting. I have a brush on which I have some alcohol and the handle of another brush, and I will just tap it. And you get that really nice spatter. Depending on how much alcohol you have on the brush, you might get a different result. I'll try it again. I used this dark background so that you would be able to really see the spatter. It was something that I wouldn't have used for anything else. On this one, I wanted to block out the bottom area, and I will spatter only on that. I used a piece of freezer paper. I laid it on top of this piece of artwork, and then I cut out the shape of the area I don't want spatter on, and I just use a little tape here and taped it to my table. I'm going to use that same technique. There, now you can see it. It's harder to see on a lighter color, but I can put it wherever I want it. And here you can see there are no areas of spatter on that purple. Now I will mist using my mister. Depending on how you do it, you can go across, you can do it from above, and depending on how much you do it, this is the result you'll get. I will now show you how to disperse the ink by blowing through a straw. Take your straw and place it directly over a drop of ink and blow through the straw. I could not do that without getting my head in the way, so now I will show you what it looks like when you do that. And there it is. And here's one that I did that technique, blowing through a straw, and sometimes did one on top of another after the one underneath was dry. And this is the result. Each time you do it, you'll get a different result. And when you practice all the techniques you've learned in this course, you'll be able to produce some really beautiful work. Enjoy it.